Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Twist Gaming. We are here live at Gen Con 2018, continuing our week-long live coverage. I am here with Will from Privateer Press, and he has brought for us one of the games that the guys got to talk to him about at Gamma. But what they were saying then was that we didn't have things to see.
Yeah, we announced Monsterpocalypse at Gamma, and we announced it, we wanted to let people know it was coming before we actually had anything to show, and we had just missed having any sort of like prototype models or stuff to bring, but we made up for it by this Gen Con with being able to pre-release the game, and people are buying it right now and getting to play it. We actually have an event happening today where people bought the game earlier, 2 days ago, and have painted up their models already and are playing it at an event. It's awesome.
Fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about what Monsterpocalypse is.
Sure. So a lot of people will recognize the name of Monsterpocalypse because it came out in 2009. Back then, it was a pre-painted collectible miniatures game. There was like blind buy boosters, and it's a board game where it is basically kaiju monsters smash 'em up. There's different factions like the Guard, which are humans inside giant mechs and tanks. There's the Martian Menace, which are giant flying saucers that are trying to strip all the resources. There's the Planet Eaters, which are weird aliens on a comet that are coming down. There's the Shadow Sun Syndicate, which are a bunch of martial arts ninjas that can go from really tiny to super gigantic. There's the Pterosaurs, which are giant fire-breathing lizards that might seem really familiar. So every kaiju sort of archetype you can think of exists in Monsterpocalypse, and it's a game about battling over giant cities. It takes place on a battle map, so it's got a lot of board game similarities. And the very first one was very much more a board game. But the big change we've made in the new one is a hobby miniatures game.
Okay.
So Privateer Press, we do War Machine and Hordes. We're really known for the quality of our miniatures that we make. And it made sense to us with sort of a relaunch of Monsterpocalypse that we wanted to be able to have more detail, bigger miniatures, better looking miniatures, and to give this community of players we have that love painting and putting together models so much the opportunity to do so. And we wouldn't be doing the blind buy collectible box anymore. You would know exactly what you were getting every time you got it, which appeals to a lot of people.
Fantastic.
So this is Monsterpocalypse 2nd Edition. It's the same game you remember if you remember the first one. It's you control a monster, and then you have a swarm of units that support that monster that are part of their agenda.
Before we switch over to the board, one of the things, obviously, we talked about the miniatures. We talked about that being the real draw. One of the real draws for the game.
Yeah.
I'd love to get a close-up. We were talking about two of the factions.
Yes. Yeah, let's put some over here.
The cat out of the bag.
So these are painted by two of our studio painters, our studio directors, actually. So that is Defender X, who is one of the monsters you get to use if you are playing Guard. He is one of the protectors. That is actually a team of people inside a giant mech suit that has the Earth is basically put together to try and fend off some of the more nefarious kaiju monsters that are trying to attack.
Now he comes with...
Yep. Whenever you play, you don't just play just a monster. As I mentioned before, you have units that support your monster that, as your monsters are sort of suplexing and body slamming each other into buildings, your units are trying to take control of the city to help empower the monsters. So there we see a G-Tank, which is a Guard unit. I mean, this is just an all-purpose vehicle. It's got a big old turret on it. It's meant for holding buildings, securing the populace, keeping people safe, and shooting down enemy monsters.
I mean, that's pretty useful in a vehicle.
Let me show you another Guard one. This is the repair truck. It's just a little fellow with a crane that as these buildings get smashed up and maybe catch on fire, a lot of the factions don't care about putting buildings back together. The repair truck can actually build a building back up and put it back into play because holding buildings can actually make your monster stronger.
Okay.
Let me show you the other side of things, though. So the Guard falls under the agenda, the Protectors, and I'll explain a little bit what that means here in a moment.
Gameplay?
This is one of the Destroyer models. He's one of the Planet Eaters. This is Gorgadra.
He's so cool looking.
The Planet Eaters came off a comet and have smashed into our planet, and their name describes their entire motive.
So look, here's what I'm thinking. I'm just going to leave him here, and I think he might do the rest of the interview.
By the way, on the camera right now, how huge he is, like where you're holding him, that looks amazing. It looks like I'm being assaulted by Gorgadra. I'm totally into this.
You know when he used to take like the G.I. Joes?
Oh yeah, you just be like, yeah.
But I mean, look at and I know that we talked about how the original ones came pre-painted, and that the new Monsterpocalypse is coming out. And one of the things is that you're going to be able to paint the resin models yourself. But these paint jobs are absolutely fantastic. And again, you had who did this paint job? Because it's 2 different people,
Yeah,
right?
this
Who
one
did
was done
paint
by
job?
Ron Cruzy, who is one of our studio heads. He's been with the company for a long time. And the other one was done by Dallas Kemp, who is our studio director.
Fantastic.
Let me show you just a couple of the units for the Planet Eaters. So these are Belchers. They're little chubby dudes, and what they do is they're full of all kinds of toxic acid, and they're the equivalent of like the G tanks for the Planet Eaters.
But, like-
they're ranged artillery that but organic material, not
Look
shells.
at how cute it is.
I know, right? It's ridiculous.
He's going to hang out with me right here.
And then this is a crawler, and the crawler is a little armored bug that's really good at holding down power zones and making sure that he can sit on a spot and really protect it and empower his monster. And all the miniatures we just showed are what are going to be in these starter boxes, which we'll talk about those towards the end.
What's really cool about the hand cam is that you really get that close-up detail. So here, I didn't notice that kind of gradient, that almost glow look in the paint and the details for the eyes, and just how cool that looks close up. Very cool.
Cool.
All right, so now that we've gotten to see the miniatures close up and pretty, what am I doing with my factions?
Okay. So the way you play this game is, first off, you choose if you're going to be a protector or a destroyer.
Destroyer.
Okay. So
That was a real hard decision.
you're like, immediately, I want nothing to survive. The protectors have 3 factions. They've got the Guard, the Pterosaurs are protectors, and then the Shadow Sun Syndicate, which are the ninjas.
Now this makes this decision a little harder.
The destroyers are the Planet Eaters, the Lords of Cthulhu, and the Martian Menace. So the first thing we do as players is we decide, are we playing a 1-monster game, a 2-monster game, or a 3-monster game? And that's just how many monsters we're each going to have per player. And the way you win any game of Monsterpocalypse is you destroy all the other person's monsters. When the other person's monsters are gone, you win.
Sounds pretty straightforward.
It's just a straight battle, right? Then you pick units, and if you're playing a 1-monster game, you get up to 15 units. And the amount of units you can take increases based on how many monsters you have. And again, they all have to be within the same agenda. So if I was playing protectors, I could have Defender X as my monster, and I could have G tanks, and I could have some Shinobi from the Sadashan, because we're all protectors. Whereas you could be Gorgadra and have the Belchers, and then maybe take some Saucers from the Martian Menace, because those are all destroyers.
Okay.
So you get a level of customization when you build your kaiju force, of exactly what kind of Gribblies you want following behind your giant monsters you fight.
That makes sense. And when we were talking about the individual smaller support units, you were talking about their individual abilities. So you're not committed to, if I'm going to choose this monster, these are the support units I must use.
Exactly.
I can choose other support units with other varied powers for whatever it is that I want to accomplish.
Absolutely. And then the last thing you do to prepare for the game is you have to build the city. Now, the starter boxes come with these cardstock apartment buildings, but there are going to be resin full-on miniature buildings of skyscrapers, power plants, coal factories that you paint them up as well, and then you will have basically your terrain in the game is also models that get placed around the map on these squares that tell you where you put them, and you and I take turns putting down different buildings on the map to build the city we're going to fight over.
Okay.
So once we've got everything set, by the way you tell the difference of what everything does, we should talk about this, there's stat cards that tell you all the rules and all the stats you need. So for example, Defender X has a stat card. This tells him...
a little green screeny, but that's not too bad.
And on there, we'll see his speed, his defense, which is how hard he is to hit, his different attack values that show you how many dice you roll, like the brawl stat, the blast stat, his power attacks. There's a little health tracker at the bottom that you can, there's a token that comes included that as you take damage, you track it down. And then any special rules, because they've all got 1 or 2 or 3 unique rules that are written out that give some flavor to each model.
Okay, and that's what we have up here with the Disruption, Mechanical, and Safeguard.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Now, monsters are unique in that they're the only double-sided cards. Monsters in this, and I know it's not going to show up good on this, but we'll flip it over real fast.
Here we go. So now you can see that bright blue color.
Yeah, and then every monster has a hyper form, and basically once they take enough damage, like any good kaiju monster movie, they power up, they go insane, and they actually get stronger. So it has a little bit of a comeback mechanic that as you get beat up more, the last few bits of health before you're dead, you get way stronger.
I do want to put this under the hand cam, and as I said, it's not okay. So just with the power of green screen, here are the colors, and you can see that it's absolutely fantastic. This is going to go transparent, but I do want to show the text there in the corner in comparison to what we have on the blue side. So we've Brawl, Blast, and Power here, and then this is our. What was the specific term you used for it?
Hyperform.
Okay, Hyperform. And now we have your Brawl and your Power still, but now our Blast attack has been improved.
Yes, yeah, you got more dice to roll, more dice, and we'll talk about the dice in a moment. But he's going to get stronger. Usually their defense will go up. Sometimes their speed will go up. They'll gain new abilities. It all really just depends on which monster it is, and they have different styles. So that what monster you pick isn't just what the miniature looks like. It's also the sort of play style you enjoy.
Very cool. And and I have up here in the special rules.
Yeah, he's picked up energy cycle. Yeah, he picked up a new rule.
So I was comparing it. Very cool.
Similarly, and we'll just do a couple of these real fast, all of the units have little cards as well. They're not double-sided because they don't have a hyperform. Units, when they get hit, they just die. They don't have health. They can't take more than 1 damage point.
Okay.
So, and this has a speed of defense. The dice we're going to roll when we make attacks with them, and any special abilities they have.
Sounds good.
As do the buildings. And the buildings simply have what their defense is, and they take a point of damage, they also get destroyed. Destroying buildings is a big part of this game because that's how you get the power die that let your monsters do the cool attacks.
Because in any good kaiju battle, it really is about destroying the buildings.
It is.
You got to have the crash, the boom, the dust in the air.
So let's play through like literally 3 quick turns so you can see how the game works.
Absolutely.
So the first thing is, this game's all about dice management. These white dice are called your action dice.
And it's a little hard to see it on the board. And
I can scoot these up.
Perfect.
So these white dice are your action dice, and you have these dice pools that you can kind of see on the side of the camera over here. There's one for units, and there's one for monsters. As you take actions, you spend the white die to do things like attack and take special actions. And you'll roll them to see if they're successful or not. And then when you spend a unit die, it moves to your monster pool. When you spend a monster die, it moves to your unit pool. When your turn starts, you choose if you're going to have a unit turn, which means only your units are going to activate, or you're going to have a monster turn, which means only your monster is going to activate.
Okay.
And you are constantly swapping these action dice back and forth. You don't have to spend them all. You can leave, say, 5 in your unit pool, 5 in your monster pool. So when it becomes your turn, you choose, do I want my tanks to go or do I want my giant monster to go?
Okay.
And that's sort of the major decision in the game is making these work.
Moving.
The blue die are called boost die, and they just are a bonus die that you get on certain types of attacks. We'll see like Gorgadra's Brawl, which you'll see there's the blue die. That blue number is how many blue die they just add anytime he makes an attack.
That's the 4 here with the 8?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the white die is how many white die he can roll whenever he makes a brawl attack. He can roll up to 8 white dice.
And 4 of them, 4 of the 8?
And then he automatically gets 4 blue die for free.
Okay. Oh, so in total it's 12 die.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And the reason is there are more hits on the blue die than there are the white die.
Okay.
The best dice you can get are the red dice, and these are called power dice. Because every die, let's see if we can show that over there, has either 1 strike on it, 2 strikes on it, or a blank.
All right. There we go.
So whenever you make an attack in this game, you roll whichever kind of dice you're rolling, white die, boost die, power die. You add up all the strikes, and you compare it to the defense of whatever it is you're trying to hit.
Okay.
So, for example, Gorgadra's defense 8, which means when I rolled as many dice as I was rolling, I would need to get an 8 or higher to be able to hit him. So I want to try and roll more red die and more blue die.
To get your double, because you're going to have the opportunity to have the double. So so I see a blue with a double hit.
Yes. So the difference is the power die has only 1 blank on it.
Mm-hmm.
It has 4 hits and 1 double hit.
Okay.
The blue die has 1 double hit, 3 hits, and 2 blanks. And then the white dies, the action die, are half of them are blanks.
Okay.
So it's just sort of your mischance.
Sounds good.
All right. So let's play through a quick couple turns, and
I
will show you how this works. So when the game starts, first off, we have to roll to see who's going to go first. Just take 5 white dice.
Okay.
Let's roll them. We're going to count up the total number of strikes. I got 7.
Oh, wow. That was really terrible. I got 2.
All right. That means I'm going to go first, which is really cool as a demo whenever you get to roll to go first. I always enjoy being able to take the first turn.
I think it's important so, I can see what needs to be done.
Yes. So first thing I do is I pick my monster. This will be my table edge, and I put my monster on any of the squares along my table edge. So I'm going to put it right here.
Okay.
Then you put Gorgadra down.
Okay.
Anywhere along your table edge.
All right, so you can't really see my table edge so great on this side, but I promise that's where I am.
We'll be meeting up soon enough. Okay. we're done. We would have built our city first, but for the purposes of making this go a little quicker for the demo, we built the city already. So there's a step where we put the buildings down back and forth.
Okay.
So we're set. We're ready to go. So the first thing we do is have a unit turn. So we will look at the board. Here's what we're looking at. You've got the buildings. We've got these spawn points, and they belong to each player. And this is where our units are going to literally spawn up. And because your units are infinite, whenever they're off the table, they can be spawned to a spawn point.
Okay.
Whenever they're killed, they just go back in your reserve pool, and you can spawn them again.
Okay.
You never run out of the little tanks and the little guys.
Okay.
These are power points.
The pink ones.
The pink ones. And when your monster starts a turn and you have one of your units on a pink one, you get a red die added to your pool to be able to use later on.
Okay.
The other thing that's you can take control of buildings. Whenever you have 3 units around a building, you have control of it. And when your monster takes a turn, you get a red die for controlling a building as well.
Okay.
So I'll get started. First thing you got to do is spawn your units. Every unit has a cost to it. Let's find the G tank. So if we look at the G tank, you'll see the cost on it. That's how many action die I have to spend.
So that's mine right here.
Yep.
Okay.
So how many action die I have to move from my unit pool to my monster pool to spawn one of them.
Okay.
So I'm going to spend 1, and I'm going to spawn a G tank here.
Okay.
I'm going to spend another 1, and I'm going to spawn a G tank here. Spend another 1, another G tank here. Spend 1 more, another G tank, and I'm going to spend 1, and I'm going to put my repair truck here. So after your units have spawned, because whenever you have a unit phase, the way it works is spawn, move, attack.
Okay.
So spawn everybody. Now I can move. Moving, it's on a board. It's a grid. Everyone has a speed. That's how many spaces they can move. When you move, you get to count 1 diagonal for each time they move.
Okay, and so the speed for the G tanks, that's the 4.
Yes.
Okay.
So for example, I'm going to move my G tank 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to move this one 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to move this one here. I'm going to move this guy 1, 2, 3, so that way they're holding that building.
So diagonal is okay.
Yeah, 1 diagonal is okay. And then my repair truck is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, my turn's over. I don't have anybody to attack, so I'm going to take all my white die, and I can either leave them in my unit pool, or I can push them over. Whenever you end a turn, you can choose to move the die from one pool to another if you're not going to spend them.
Okay.
So I'll push them over here. So let's go ahead and take your first unit turn.
Okay, we're gonna take my first unit turn. So I have 10 dice, right, in
Yep.
my unit pool, and I can spend 1. Well, let's see. What are my unit costs?
Your unit costs are all going to be 1.
Okay, to place people places.
Yes.
And since I have no idea what's strategically good, you're gonna.
I would tell you exactly what to do. So, yeah.
All right.
So let's go and spend 1.
And it's going to go into my monster pool.
Yep. And then take this Belcher and put it down on any of the spawn points you want. And for right now, it doesn't really matter.
Okay. So if I want any of the spawn points, these are my orange spaces. I'm gonna put him there just because that's where I think he should go.
Yep.
Okay.
Spin another one.
Spending another one.
Let's make a crawler. And the crawlers are really good at holding power points. So we'll put him here really close to this power point, okay?
Okay.
Then spin 3 more. And let's go ahead and just put out the rest of the crawlers.
Trace.
Or,
Do I want
Belchers.
a crawler? Oh, okay. There's a power point here. Do I want my crawler here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we'll put 1 there, we'll put 1 here, and we'll put 1 here. Got it. Okay, so now is the move turn for your units. They are all speed. The crawler's speed 4.
Okay.
And the Belchers are all speed 5. And we'll pull one of their cards out so we can see. Oh, sorry, they're speed 4. Whoops. I said the wrong thing. They're all speed 4.
Okay.
So, like, there is the Belcher card if we want to show that.
Fantastic.
But we're going to do something kind of cool.
Okay. So that's your speed 4.
Yep.
Okay. So where are we going?
We're going to move this guy up to this power point.
All
so we'll go
right.
1, 2, 3, and then a
2,
diagonal.
3 and a diagonal.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, let's go ahead and move that one onto that power point.
1, 2, and 3 onto a power point.
Yeah, we'll move up to the power point.
3 onto a power point.
I'd move him just straight ahead, just straight towards my G-Tank. Great.
Okay.
And then we're also going to move this little guy 1, 2, 3, 4. Just get a little bit
Why
closer.
did he get a second move?
Oh.
Oh, okay.
The reason is because I'm cheating on the demo, and I messed up.
It's good
Mistakes
reason.
are why.
It's a good reason.
So now, you still have these action die. Now, notice I couldn't do anything with my action die because I didn't have range to attack you. Obviously, I went first.
Right.
But you've got a couple people in range. The Belcher, if we put his card right here, we'll see that he's got a brawl, which means he can only attack people adjacent to him, and he's got a blast, and the blast shows the range.
Range of 5.
So if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can count 1 diagonal,
Okay.
he's in range of my G-Tank.
Okay.
On his blast, it shows how many white die he can roll.
So that's going to be the 2.
Yeah, and then it tells you how many blue die you get for free.
Okay, so then I have 2 out of my 5 still left in my unit pool.
You got it.
And then I'm going to grab one of my blue die, and my thing mirrors this side here.
Yep.
So then now do I just roll? Or
You just roll, and my defense is a 4, so you're trying to get a 4 to kill me.
Oh, great, and this is live and on TV. No!
It's close.
2.
So these white die get spent. They go over to your monster.
Okay.
Now, that's all. Now, no one else I think you have is in range. So it's your choice. You could either leave these 3 white die in your unit pool to be able to have another unit turn if you wanted, or you can move them over to your monster. I recommend move them over to your monster pool.
Okay, so they go to the monster pool.
Okay. So I know we're running a little low on time, so we're going to skip forward just a little bit.
Sounds good.
So next will be a monster turn. So the first thing we do is when you take your monster turn, you get a red die added to your monster's available resources for every one of these power points we were holding. So I've got 1 there. I've got 1 here. So I would get 2 power die, and I would actually put them in this little power pool over here. And then with my 3 units next to the building, I would get 1 there as well. So I would have 3. What power die can only be used by your monster.
Okay.
And they let you do power attacks. So I'm going to show you an idea of what a power attack is real fast. Let's say we had played a couple more turns. My monster had moved up. Your monster had moved up. Maybe we killed a couple guys. Units do things like punch people. They shoot people like we just saw.
Right.
Your monsters can also just walk up and punch and shoot people, but they've got special moves they can do. For example, say that a monster lines up perfectly, which means we're face to face like that with an enemy monster. You can do, can we see?
Yeah.
We can do power attacks. The power attacks in the game are body slamming,
Okay.
throwing, picking up enemy models and swatting them. Like you can grab one of my tanks and just throw my tank at someone else. But the way you do the most damage in the game is usually by picking up an enemy monster, tossing them, or like suplexing them into another building. So I'm going to give you an example of how that works. So if you had your turn, let's say we skip for a little bit, you'd have, what was that? 1, 2, you'd have had 3 power die.
Okay.
And then you probably had 1 more turn. So you have 3 more power dice. So you had 6.
Okay.
You've taken your monster turn. You walked up. You're next to me. You can only do one of these cool power die if you have any red dice to spend. You have to spend at least 1, and you choose how many you spend. And that's the other major resource in the game is these power attacks do so much damage. It's like, I need to roll them because they have the greatest chance of hitting, but I want to conserve some so that I have more power attacks I can do later on. So for Gargadra to hit me, I'm defense 8. Gargadra rolls 4 of these.
Okay.
4 blues.
Okay.
Then any number of reds you would want and any number of action dice you would want.
Oh, wow.
So to get an 8, let's make it easy. Say that you attack me and you rolled all this, and we're going to do this live. It's totally going to work. Take all these dice
Oh God, let's
and roll an 8.
Watch me.
Easy game. All right,
All
you have to
right.
count it all up.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got more than enough.
Okay, so when you body slam, what you get to do is you take my monster,
Yeah.
you're lined with me, and you get to pick me up and put me so I'm lined up with you again in
Okay.
any of the cardinal directions.
Okay.
If that slams me into a building,
So if I had moved it to the left because we had the building in the square here.
yeah. Well, it would still work because I was here, and you
Yeah.
could put me here where any part of me would touch the building. The building gets destroyed and replaced with rubble. I land in the flaming wreckage, and I end up actually taking extra damage. So while the units can do a point of damage, and the monsters can punch or like blast each other into a point of damage, the way you win this game is by you would body slam me. Then on my turn, I would turn with my power die I got from controlling the city, and I might throw you, and I'd be like, I'm going to throw you 7 spaces and throw you back into this building, which then catches on fire and crushes one of my own tanks and kills it. And we're having this game where our units are controlling the city and the power points and the buildings to get the power die, and the monsters are spending the power die to destroy the city with each other.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then you have health. If you just punch or blast each other, you do a point of damage. You do extra damage when you get knocked into buildings, so the fastest way to drain their health is to throw them in the buildings, and when they hit 0 health, you win.
Awesome. Awesome. Will, thank you so much
Yep.
for coming to show us Monsterpocalypse. I'm so happy that we have the opportunity now to see the pre-release version of the game. We have the minis. You've got some of the painted minis.
It will be in stores the 3rd week of September, and the starters, the Protector starter and the Destroyer starter, are both $49.99.
Okay.
They come with a map, all the dice, the monster, and the units you saw here for their respective faction, the rule book, all the tokens, the rubble tokens, everything you need to play.
Awesome. And if I want to find out more about Monsterpocalypse, Monsterpocalypse about Privateer Press. Where am I going?
So you can go to privateerpress.com to learn more about Privateer Press. You can go to monsterpocalypse.com where the rules are free right now. You can download all the rules and read the full rule book of all the game. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We stream 3 times a week on Twitch. We're all over the place. But Monsterpocalypse specifically, go to monsterpocalypse.com. Download the rules. They're free. And then come talk to us online. We're happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I
Thanks.
really appreciate it. Guys, stay tuned for more live coverage here from Gen Con 2018.